Hello, lovely listeners, and welcome to The Theorist with your host, JC Botero67. I must start off by saying that it feels really strange having not done a review for a whole week, so it feels good to be back, and I missed you guys, so it'll be nice to do this again after, a little hiatus that I took myself. It wasn't just AnimeCujo, it was me too. But I did do some research on Book of Revelation. I actually went through and read the whole thing, so, I have some theories forming in my mind. But I won't quite mention that in this video, potentially another one, so that's something to look forward to, and I'll let you guys know when that happens. But for now, we will go ahead and take a look at Chapter 14. So this is the beginning chapter of the second arc of Revelations, and it starts off with Ciel starting to wake up. Aloise is already awake, sees Ciel lying in bed on his stomach, and then, he loves the wings that Ciel has grown, or at least the wings that have come out of his body from the whole transformation thing that happened the night before. So Aloise is just kind of touching it and whatnot, and then Ciel starts to wake up, and he's like, oh, Aloise, I had this crazy nightmare. And Aloise knows that Ciel does not believe anything that happened last night. He thinks it's all part of a dream. So Aloise doesn't say anything, he just kind of lets Ciel talk to him about it. And so this is what he had to say. Ugh, they were crazy, Ciel answered with a grimace. We were in the church, you, me, Father Spears, and Finney. He exhaled loudly as he recounted the unpleasant images. It was totally freaky. Lots of insane shiitakes going on with blood and knives and bondage. Of course, Ciel did not mention the mushroom, but, I stuck that in there because I want to kind of refrain from saying curse words. So I will probably come up with a list of alternative words for cuss words, and so yeah, shiitake is one of them. But that's beside the point. So Ciel mentioned bondage, and I guess Aloise kind of gives him this weird look, and Ciel's like, yeah, you heard right. That's what I dreamt about. And, he basically tells Aloise, you're a weird dream friend. To which then Aloise is like, okay, what if I told you that none of that was a dream or a nightmare, it was all real, it actually happened? And so Ciel's like, oh, please, you're lying. And then, he feels this rustle behind his head. So he runs to a mirror in Spears' room, I think it is, or some room in the church. Yeah, it is Father Spears' room. And, he encounters the mirror, and then he sees the wings. And he is just freaking out. He's like, oh my gosh, I'm totally abnormal. I'm not just your average kid anymore. I have these wings on me. And so, he starts freaking out, and then Aloise and him steadily start to get louder. So then Spears comes in, and, he just kind of glares more at Aloise, the sudden outburst that happened. And then all of a sudden, Ciel kneels before Spears, and he's all like, oh, forgive me, Father, for I have sinned. I have done things not befitting of a follower of Christ. I need you to cleanse me of my sins. And then later on, he's like, oh, don't you see these wings? They are God's punishment. And so I'm just like, oh, Ciel is just so adorable. I just want to give him a hug for thinking that what he did with Sebastian was unworthy and that he's being punished by being given these wings. And so Spears is like, it's not a punishment, it's actually a blessing. And, Aloise and Ciel are kind of confused, and so Spears is like, okay, I'm going to tell you everything and start from the beginning. So, of course, Spears starts off with, in the beginning there was God, or something like that, and Aloise is just like, oh my gosh, really? We're starting at that point? Kind of rolling his eyes. Spears keeps going, and then he asks a rhetorical question. To which Aloise is just like, oh, I know what that is, raises his hand, jumping up and down, he wants to answer it. So Spears is just all like, oh my gosh, Aloise, calm down, I wasn't actually asking that, you don't have to answer it. So, it's just funny seeing Aloise's random reactions, it's beautiful. But anyway, Spears eventually gets to the Book of Revelation, and he basically says John of Patmos received the Book of Revelation through a vision on a Greek island. However, God only gave him half the information. The rest was given to the church in a text that we affectionately like to call the Book of Salvation. In it is the story of how our Lord plans to fight back against the ever-encroaching darkness of hell upon the humans and the last effort on his part before any of the Four Horsemen ride. So, it seems that later in the story, when this battle between heaven and hell takes place, there are going to be 4 horsemen. Right now, I haven't really put any thought as to who the 4 horsemen might be, but, I will think about it and discuss it in another video. But, if you have any idea who you think it might be, or, want to kind of throw out your theories and predictions out there, please do so. I mean, you can comment on this video, or you can comment on my Facebook page, Jocelyn Botero -the Theorist, or on Twitter. My username is JocelynTurn. And don't worry, I'll include the links in the info. Well, the links are there, so, click away. But yeah, I'd like to hear what you guys think, and I don't know if you guys have read the Book of Revelation. I will provide a link to that as well. And, you can read through it, and then we can kind of compare and contrast who we think certain characters are, and what might be drawn from the Book of Revelation into this story. So just a little fun interactive activity with you guys, if you are willing. But getting back on topic, Spears then talks about the Archangel Michael, and how he fell in love with a human woman, and she ended up pregnant. So, obviously they had a child who's half angel, half human, and Spears said about him that he would be born imbued with the strength and resilience of his father and the mortality of his mother. This meant that the angelic mortal would be capable of protecting humans from the violence sought upon them by Hell's minions. Therefore, generation after generation of the unique bloodline has taken up the mantle of Demon Slayer, destroying evil beings and keeping Satan's forces at bay, when he tries to shift the balance of power between heaven and hell. And then, while he was saying that, he, at one point, gives Ciel a look. And that's when he reveals to him, hey, you are part of this bloodline. Your father preceded you, and now you're next in line to protect the human race from whatever Satan's planning against them. And so he has to go through this training that takes place in the small chapel on the mountain. And so Ciel wants to take Aloise with him. He would feel more comfortable having his best friend there. He already knows the truth anyway, so he may as well come along with them. To which Spears is like, oh, no, that's not going to happen. And before I confuse anybody, basically the training is set to start tomorrow. So, Ciel's going to be missing about a few weeks of class. He won't be going back home to his aunt. And, Spears is like, oh, yeah, I talked to the school, we're set to go. Your aunt knows about this, too. Your chauffeur, Barderoy, is going to come with your stuff. And so Ciel is like, oh, my aunt already knew about this. And Spears is like, oh, yeah, she did. It was right for her to know since she was going to care for you after your parents died. And then Spears was actually there the night that Ciel's parents died. And so Ciel was finally eager to hear. Well, not eager because it's a depressing thing, but he was really wanting to know what exactly happened. Spears was a witness to this. But of course, Spears is like, no, for now we're going to focus on your training. I'll tell you the story about that later. So of course that leaves us in suspense as well. But that's something that we will find out in the future. I think what Spears is trying to get by doing that is to keep Ciel focused in the training and get him to not be distracted by the story of his parents' death, because it's probably something very severe that would affect Ciel's training. And so Spears wants to just have him be in focus and get all the strength and skills that he needs, and that way he can exert that power in his revenge. Because, like I said, I'm sure that, it's pretty apparent that someone from Satan's side did something to his parents. So, that's gonna make Ciel want to use everything he learned to fight back and defeat whoever it is. And, like I've mentioned, it could be Claude, it could be Hannah, I don't think I've mentioned that before, but it could be her, or it could be Sebastian. But thinking about it, if Spears was there, it would be tricky for Sebastian to have been the person who did it, unless his face was covered up or something. Because as we know, there was that confrontation between Spears and Sebastian a few chapters back. So, Spears didn't really recognize him, so a covered face or something would be the only explanation to that. But I'm getting a little carried away right now, so let's get back on track. So Spear said no to Aloise spending that whole time with them, but he did give permission for Aloise to come visit Ciel once a week. So there was like a little compromise there. And so that's about where the chapter ends. I, of course, thought about Sebastian and what would be of him with Ciel gone for weeks. So if Sebastian is aware that Ciel's an angel, he probably has an idea about the training that he's gonna have to undergo after the transformation. So, he might just kind of let it be. Or, he might not be aware of that fact. And so it's kind of like, okay, where's my prey? My plan is gonna keep getting pushed back, and that's not good. But I think for the most part, if we do see Sebastian in the following chapters with Ciel in training, I think Sebastian would more miss him and long for him, rather than want him back to torture him and slowly kill him. But anyway, I wanted to end with a little portion of the author's note, and it's basically this part. It just says it all. Ciel is not going to get pregnant, so all you out there who had that little theory tucked away in your back pockets can just forget about it. When I read that, I was just like, really? People came up with that random theory? It's always amusing to me to see people come up with these theories. It's almost like that one person who thought Ciel was a merman. I mean, I love that idea. And, this is interesting. I don't know how people came up with that, but I think it's awesome. And we'll just go ahead and end it there, because I don't have much else to say. It's great to be back, though, and, reviewing this, predicting this, and talking the nonsense that I always do, and checking out what other people have to say. I really love talking about this theory that some of the readers came up with. So I'm definitely looking forward to more of that. And, that being said, I will go ahead and bid you guys adieu, and I will catch you all in the next review.